everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything, changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything, changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything, changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything. You turn my morning into dancing. 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 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. You turn my morning into dancing. You turn my morning into dancing. You turn my morning into dancing. 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. Oh, there's something about your love, something about your love changes everything in my body. Oh, something about your love, something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything, changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything, changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything, changes everything. Something about your love, something about your love changes everything. You turn my morning into dancing. 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 Something about your love, something about your love changes everything.
Good morning, Rooted Men, and happy and blessed Thursday morning. Pastor Tom, Firmly Rooted Ministries, and we are looking at 2 Corinthians chapter 6. And I think we're looking at verses 1 through 10. I may have typed it wrong inside my StreamYard, but I think that's pretty much what we're doing. Things are getting pretty exciting. I had another meeting yesterday with the pastor from Freedom Church. Some just working on some of the little details that need to be worked on, and dealing with like handicap parking and how are we going to do that, and just lots of small details, a few big ones, but everything is moving forward. Everything is really exciting. And I hope that you are caught up in the excitement, because rightfully so. This is huge. Firmly Rooted, for the first time in 12 years, is going to be worshiping in a sanctuary, which hopefully is a precursor of something that maybe are someday, right? That we would build something, or we would have something. So very cool, very cool. Let's see who's on board, and let's get to the devotion. Chris Connolly, good morning. Shalom, gentlemen, says Chuck B. Eric, good morning. Great to have you on board. I'm out there on X. Bert Reggiani, good morning, gentlemen. Ken Gooch, good morning, fellow brothers in arms. Brian Vlaming, good morning. And seeing Brian Vlaming and Bert Reggiani on there, both of you who have volunteered to like bring a truck and a trailer. We're getting close. I don't know that it'll be this week. Most likely it's going to be next week, where we're going to pick some times during a day and clean out an office or get some things that need to go to the storage unit. And then later in the week, hopefully moving some things to the church. But we've got to give them some time to move some things out of some rooms. So I got to negotiate that. But so I just want you to know that you're on my minds about helping with that. Bull, great to have you, brother. All right, so let me pull up the text. And we're going to look at 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 1 through 10. Working together with him, Jesus, then we appeal to you not to receive the grace of God in vain. For he says, in a favorable time I listened to you, and in a day of salvation I have helped you. And he's quoting Isaiah 49, verse 8. Again, I love the ESV for putting that bubble right there so I can highlight over and go, oh, he's quoting the Old Testament. Receiving the grace in vain. He's trying to preach the gospel in a pagan society. And what would be the greatest temptation is to take what you comfortably know and try to merge it with this new thought. And hence you would distort the very gospel itself. But it happens all the time. It happens in American society today, where people are trying to merge their worldview with Christianity when they don't understand Christianity is an entire worldview takeover. It's a dying to our current worldview and a taking on of a completely new worldview. Hence, we firmly root ourselves in God's love and his eternal truth. Notice, I'm not in that statement at all, except I'm one of the recipients of his love, and I'm one of the recipients of his truth. But they are the masters. That is the worldview. So he is saying that here, and then quoting Isaiah. Behold, now is the favorable time. There it is. He's trying to say, in a favorable time I listened to you. Now is the favorable time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. We put no obstacle in anyone's way, so that no fault may be found with our ministry. But as servants of God, we commend ourselves in every way. I think what he's saying there is so important for guys like me in the United States, as a pastor, and any pastor that's pastoring a church in the United States. Get out of the way. It's not about you. It's not about your egos. It's not about some kind of new thing that you figured out. It is always about God. It is always about worshiping him, giving him glory, giving him thanks, having a life that is completely done out of gratitude. He says, but as servants of God, we commend ourselves in every way by great endurance in affliction, hardships, calamities, beatings, imprisonment. By the way, I'm thankful that at this point in time in my life, I've only gone through a few of those things, like endurance and affliction, hardships, yes, beatings, imprisonments, riots, labors. Nah, not yet. Sleepless nights, yes. Hunger, no. By purity, knowledge, patience, and kindness, the Holy Spirit, genuine love, by truthful speech, and the power of God. And again, you're seeing where Paul, he's famous for these run-on sentences. You never know where to put the period because it keeps on going and going and going. And it's a little rough on the English language. But notice he's saying, we are going through all of these things. But at the same time, we're experiencing these things from a faithful God and the Holy Spirit who is lifting us up, taking care of us. The Holy Spirit, genuine love, by truthful speech, by the power of God. That is something that I don't think we can deny. That the power of God has been firmly rooted. It's at work inside of each one of us. It is transforming our hearts and minds. It's changing our perspectives. It is doing things. We're not the same people we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, because we are ever growing in our relationship deeper and deeper with this God of grace and this God of love and a God who wants to direct us and lead us, and Jesus being a shepherd to us. So, power of God with the weapons of righteousness for the right hand and for the left. I love that idea. We're not using our fists to fight and treat the world out there the same way that it treats us. But what we have in our hands is the righteousness of Christ. What we have is grace and mercy and love. Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. That we should pray for those people who are persecuting us. Always remembering that they're imago Dei, that is probably being led by demonic forces, but our enemies, the forces. Through honor and dishonor, through slander and praise, we are treated as impostors and yet are true, as unknown and yet well known, as dying and behold, we live, as punished and yet not killed, as sorrowful, yet always rejoicing, as poor, yet making many rich, as having nothing, yet possessing everything. Everybody, I love verse 10. If it's something that you can just meditate on today, I think that would be a blessing. Although, as we live in this broken, sinful world, there's reason for sorrow, yet we rejoice because he's overcome the world. Although we may be poor in the sense of don't have what others have, we have something that makes other people rich. And I don't mean rich monetarily, I mean rich in the soul. So because it may look like we have nothing, in reality, we possess everything. We possess a relationship with the very God of the universe, who is the provider of all things. Takes care of us physically, mentally, spiritually. As sorrowful, yet always rejoicing. As poor, yet making many rich. As having nothing, yet possessing everything. Beautiful, beautiful. My cousin Dave Donnelly, good to have you on board. Brothers, I hope that has brought you some good news. I hope that's brought you something maybe to ponder a little bit. And continue to pray for this big move that we're going through to move from the Legacy Center over to Oxford Freedom Church, and just keep praying for all the details. And I may be tapping some of you on the shoulder saying, hey, we need some help. And I'm thankful that many of you have already offered. And so we got a lot to do. We're trying to line that all up. And so, just be ready, and thank you for being ready. All right. Blessings on your day. Make it a firmly rooted day, and may someone see Jesus in us today. Peace.